हमेशा खुश रहो बिटिया. This is Jv'n, Dr. Lily Trivedi. Before you, I'm presenting a lecture for B.Pharma second sem students, and the topic is food resources, natural resources and their associated problems. Now this is in the course of EVS Environmental Sciences and from JAYOTI VIDYAPEETH Women's University. Now we will discuss today the food resources and what are their problems related to it. Now food, the major food diet includes wheat, rice, maize, potato, barley, oats, sugarcane, pulses, sweet potato, and so many types of fruits, vegetables, milk, meat, fish, seafoods, etc. Now major grains are rice, wheat and maize. So this is the staple diet of people around the world. Meat and milk is consumed in many parts of the world and is mainly consumed by the developed nations. Fish is also an important part because it is major part of diet of the people in relation to nearby the water bodies. Now, people who eat less than minimum dietary calories are called undernourished, and who are taking even less than 80% are called seriously undernourished. So such deficiency leads to diseases like the protein deficiency leads to stunted growth, kwashiorkor or marasmus, and iron deficiency leads to anemia. Now anemia is present in 350 million people almost and is the major cause of death. Iodine deficiency leads to goiter or cretinism, and vitamin A deficiency leads to blindness. Now the problem of food, it is such at a large extent that they say every year food problem is killing as many people as were killed by the Hiroshima bomb dropped during the World War II. Now this is a very startling fact, and in the Indian scenario, we are the third largest producer of staple crops, but still many Indians are undernourished and food problem is our problem. Now what is the impact? Now there are the problems other than the undernourishment and malnourishment which we face. That is, when we produce the food, we are overcome with the problems like overgrazing. Very often the livestock grazing on a particular piece of grassland or pasture surpasses the carrying capacity. It means the grazing pressure is so high that the sustainability of the grazing land fails. How does it fail? By land degradation. The roots cannot go deep in soil, and the organic recycling also declines because there is no detritus or litter present on the soil to be decomposed. The trampling of the soil by the cattle loses the infiltration capacity, and as such the water gets lost. Second is soil erosion. Due to overgrazing, the soil becomes exposed due to strong winds and rains. Useful species are lost because the livestock graze heavily upon them and they cannot be regenerated. And the nutritious juicy fodder like sensuous Dicynthium penicans then gets replaced by thorny plants like Parthenium, Lantana and Xanthium. Now agriculture, what are the impacts of agriculture? Now impacts of agriculture is slash and burn cultivation was used before. Now this type of agriculture is not in practice much, but it was there. Now the traditional practices that will include deforestation, soil erosion and depletion of nutrients. But in the modern agriculture, there are different types of problems like we have in the modern agriculture, there was a tremendous effort for green revolution, the food production to be increased through this, in which high-tech equipments, fertilizers, pesticides, etc. were focused on. Now this gave rise to several problems like high yielding varieties. Now what was the problem? The same genotype was grown in vast area. So this made it susceptible to pest and attack. Fertilizer related problems. How? There was a micronutrient imbalance because we focused on boosting the crop growth and use of excessive fertilizers that caused a micronutrient imbalance. Like the micronutrient zinc was becoming deficient. Second is nitrate pollution. The excessive nitrogenous fertilizers lead to leaching in the deep soil and contaminating the groundwater. And this has also led to serious health hazards like the blue baby syndrome. The blue baby syndrome in infants. In India, it is also a problem. Another excessive problem is of eutrophication. Eutrophication is excessive use of nitrogen and phosphorus fertilizers leads to another problem, that is large proportion of these in the water bodies in nearby lakes causes eutrophication, that is the algal bloom. Now more nutrient is present, so algal bloom grows very fast and use up the nutrients and badly affect the food chain. So the algae dies and makes lot of organic matter. As such, the oxygen demand becomes less and fish start getting killed. So this is due to excessive use of fertilization in agriculture soil. We should not forget the pesticide related problem. The first generation pesticide and the second generation pesticide, though they have been useful in controlling the pest, but the side effects are they are creating resistance in new pests, producing new pests called super pests. They are causing death of non-target organisms. They are causing biological magnification. That is, the pesticide do not biodegrade and keep accumulating in the food chain. And at the last level of the higher trophic level, they become in a biomagnified form, which is very harmful. Waterlogging. Waterlogging is a problem as the waterlogging prevents excessive irrigation, prevents the soil from absorbing water. Why? Because the soil air pore spaces are fully drenched and the soil air gets depleted. The water table rises, but the roots do not get air for respiration. So as such, the mechanical strength of the soil declines, the plants get dislodged and the crop yield fails. So how can we prevent it? We can prevent excessive irrigation by subsurface drainage and biodrainage like planting eucalyptus plants. Then we have a salinity problem. The soils are characterized by accumulation of soluble salts, and thus those which are having more salts are called saline soils or salinity soils. Now the cause is excessive irrigation, which causes the canal water, which contains lots of dissolved salts, to evaporate and leave behind salts in the upper soil profile. So this is present in thousands of hectares in Haryana and Punjab. Saline soils cause stunted plant growth and low crop yield. Some plants cannot tolerate. So as such, the common remedial measure is of getting rid of soils to flush them by applying more quality of good water. There is another method of laying underground network of perforated drainage pipes for flushing out the salt slowly. So this was about the food resources and their associated problems. Now, when we study these, we get acquainted with what are the problems which we are facing today. So this session was powered by digital version 2.0 of JAYOTI VIDYAPEETH Women's University. I hope you are satisfied with my digital session. If you have any query, please mention in the comment box. I will resolve it soon. So thank you, students, and namaste.